Rain poured down the glass walls of the towering office building, streaking like silent tears over the city skyline. Inside, the man everyone called a cold-hearted CEO stood frozen, staring at the woman who had just entered his office. She was soaked from the storm, trembling, clutching a small child's hand. Yet it wasn't her appearance that stopped his breath. It was her face. A face he had seen years ago, in the middle of chaos, smoke, and blood, when he was just a broken soldier clinging to life. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unseen ways fate brings people back together, then please take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel, because stories like this remind us that good hearts always find their way home. 5 years earlier, before he was known as Adrian Cole, the ruthless CEO of Cole Enterprises, he had been Captain Adrian Cole of the Army, a man who had lost everything: his wife to illness, his hope to war, and nearly his life to an explosion in a war-torn village. He remembered lying among the ruins, bleeding out, when a young woman, a volunteer medic, found him. She wrapped his wounds with trembling hands, whispered, "You're going to live," and refused to leave until he was safe. Her name tag had read Maya. Then, like a fleeting miracle, she disappeared before he could even thank her. After the war, Adrian returned home, raising his infant daughter alone. He buried himself in work, building his company from nothing, determined to shield himself from pain. Every smile felt like a lie, every relationship temporary. The world saw him as a man who conquered life, but inside he was still fighting to survive. He never forgot the woman who had saved him, but he believed some angels were meant to vanish after saving a soul. Now, standing in his office years later, that angel had returned, but she looked nothing like the woman who once glowed with compassion and strength. Her eyes were tired, her clothes worn, and the small boy beside her clung to her like she was all he had left. She apologized for disturbing him, explaining she had come seeking a job. Her voice shook as she said her life had fallen apart. Her husband had abandoned her after taking everything, and she needed work to keep her son fed. Adrian listened, silent, heart-pounding, realizing she didn't even recognize him. He gave her the job instantly, not out of pity, but out of something deeper. She became an assistant in the company's outreach department, quiet, hard-working, never complaining, though exhaustion shadowed her face. Adrian found himself watching her from afar, noticing how she smiled at everyone despite her pain, how she shared her lunch with the janitors, how she carried warmth that reminded him of who he once was. But what broke him most was watching her walk her little boy to the bus every morning, her hand slipping into his like she was holding on to the only reason left to breathe. Weeks passed, and whispers spread through the office. Some employees mocked Maya's worn clothes, others whispered about how the CEO seemed too interested in her. Adrian ignored them all, quietly ensuring she got small raises and flexible hours. But when she fainted one afternoon during work, malnourished and exhausted, everything changed. He personally drove her to the hospital, holding her hand as she drifted in and out of consciousness. When the doctor said she hadn't eaten properly in days so her son could eat, something inside him shattered. He sat by her bedside all night, unable to stop the flood of memories. The smell of smoke, her hands over his bleeding chest, her voice saying, "You're going to live." He finally whispered into the quiet room, "You saved me once, now it's my turn to protect you." The next morning, when Maya awoke, she found her medical bills paid and groceries delivered to her home. Her son had new clothes, her rent was covered, and her job title had been quietly changed to Head of Community Relations. With a salary she couldn't believe, she rushed into Adrian's office, tears streaming down her face, begging to know why he was helping her. Adrian only said softly, "Because once, a woman risked her life to save a broken man she didn't even know. That man never forgot her." He watched her eyes widen as realization dawned. The soldier she had saved, the man she thought had died. From that moment on, their bond deepened not out of romance, but out of gratitude, respect, and shared pain. Maya became the light that softened Adrian's cold heart. Together, they started a foundation helping veterans and single parents rebuild their lives. She taught him how kindness could heal wounds even money never could. Months turned into a year. Adrian's daughter and Maya's son became inseparable, laughter once again echoing in a house that had long been silent. Slowly, love grew between the two adults, a gentle, hesitant love born from shared scars. Maya still feared being a burden, but Adrian would remind her, "You saved me when I had nothing." Let me be your strength now." Then one winter night, tragedy struck again. A fire broke out in Maya's apartment complex. Adrian raced through the storm, arriving just as firefighters pulled her and her son from the smoke. Seeing her coughing, wrapped in blankets, he knelt beside her, his hands trembling as he whispered, "I promised I'd protect you. I'm never breaking that promise again." He moved her and her son into his home that night, where they never left again. What followed wasn't a fairy tale. It was real life. There were struggles, fears, and nights filled with tears. But there was also healing laughter, and the kind of love that grows not from perfection, but from endurance. Adrian learned that sometimes saving someone doesn't mean grand gestures. It means showing up, staying, and refusing to let them fall alone. Years later, at the grand opening of their charity's new headquarters, Maya stood beside Adrian, her son holding his hand as cameras flashed. In his speech, Adrian spoke not about business but about humanity. "Success," he said, "means nothing if you've forgotten the hands that lifted you when you fell. I was saved once by a stranger who believed my life was still worth fighting for. Everything I have today, this company, this family, is because of her." Maya taught me that one act of kindness can change everything. The audience rose to their feet, many wiping tears. Maya turned to him, her eyes glistening with the same warmth that had once brought a dying soldier back to life. In that moment, both of them knew. Fate had brought them full circle, not by accident, but by grace. So if this story touched your heart, if you believe that love, kindness, and second chances can heal even the deepest scars, please like, share, and comment below. And don't forget to subscribe, because stories like this remind us, sometimes the people we save are the ones who come back to save us.